Okay, so we'll get started. Again, if you're just joining me or if you weren't sure what to grab for props, props are optional. Sometimes people think real yin doesn't use props, but real bodies need all kinds of stuff. So sometimes we don't use any props, sometimes we have a prop or two, or so it doesn't really matter. The only point of the props is to make the pose more comfortable for you. Not where you're feeling at ease, but where you feel that you can relax. You can sort of let go. You can give into that gravity. So for me, the props really help. And then when my body is ready to let go, it's ready to relax, then I move them away. So again, they're optional. I'm going to use a bolster a lot today. That's just sort of been working in my practice. And almost every pose can use a bolster today. If you don't have a bolster, you have blankets folded up. They'll do the same thing. And kind of change the height of it, which is nice. And then I've got a couple of blocks as well. So we'll get started. So we're going to get started in a reclined butterfly. I do this a lot, but I'm going to change how we do this today. So I'm going to take the bolster. This could be a couple of blankets. This could be no props. And I'm going to start with my legs on top of the bolster. So if you are feeling not quite ready to move into the full pose, you can just bend your knees kind of like a wide butterfly. I'm actually going to set my feet on top of the bolster and have myself move into it that way. It's a little bit deeper of a stretch. I use my timer on my phone, Insight Timer. It's a really nice app. And we'll do 3 minutes, even though we're really going to be here probably just a little bit longer than that. All right. So from here, get yourself set up. So again, I'm starting with the soles of my feet on the bolster. I can very easily clear and pass those feet further to make this a little less intense. So soles of the feet together on the bolster, arms to the sides, eyes closed. And again, we're probably going to be here a little longer in this pose than the full 3 minutes. So when the timer goes up, don't move very quickly. Just give yourself a few moments to sort of settle. As the eyes close, let the body just drop into this space. Today we're going to be working the liver and gallbladder meridian lines that are on the inside and outside of the legs. This is really moving us from anger into compassion. So finding a sense of ease in our internal environment. And so even in this moment, notice what doesn't feel at ease in the body. For me, I can kind of feel parts of my hips not really wanting to let go. You might feel resistance or rigidity in the jaw or the breath. So take a moment and just notice, where can you relax into ease? Where you can release into that compassion for your body. And the breath is creating a smooth, even rhythm. Let's take an inhale through the nose, just a third of the way, and stop. Continue to inhale the breath another third, stop. Inhale the rest, and take a natural exhale. Inhale a third, the belly rises. Inhale a third, side ribs widen. Inhale the last, chest lifts. Exhale naturally. One more together. Inhale, belly rises. Continue the inhale into the side ribs. Continue the inhale into the chest. And exhale naturally. Just allow your breath to take on its own pattern now. It's the breath that animates our pose, that animates our body. So those areas that might have felt rigid, tight, unwilling to release, imagine that you could send your breath into those spaces, asking them to soften, to give in to gravity. All right, so give yourself a few more moments. We're not here much longer, but we don't want to move very quickly. And let's say that we're going to be here about another 5 breaths. And continuing to relax, inhale the arms overhead. As you reach behind you, interlace the fingers, turn the palms open, yawn. And then wrap the arms around the knees. Guide your knees together. And we're going to do something a little bit different. So if you have your bolster, we're going to use it. We're going to take our hips and lift them so that that bolster is under the hips, feet to the ceiling. If you don't have a bolster, you're just going to be flat on the ground, or you can use your 2 blankets. Let's take a moment here, get set into our next pose. Most of our poses today are going to be about 3 minutes. We'll have a couple longer poses towards the end. So with your legs towards the ceiling, just pause here for a moment. And then you're going to cross your right ankle over your left knee. So think figure 4, think thread the needle. You can even leave that left foot on the ground if that feels better for you. So from that figure 4, either stay with the left foot on the ground or bring it up. And what I like about the bolsters, the closer you get that left leg to you, the more gravity does the work for you. So you don't have to hold the leg. So again, some of you will have props, some of you won't. So it's more about the shape of the pose, the suggested pose, suggested shape. If I can get it out. We're here 3 minutes in your version of figure 4 or thread the needle. And if you're doing this version on the bolster, what's nice is you can explore with straightening the left leg, and that might even take gravity in deeper. Just see what's working for you. And we have an opportunity to explore the breath again. And so let's take the breath in and out through the nose. And we'll make the breath even, some of it to even ratio breathing. I generally tend to do the count of 4 and 4, but you might decide later to change that to a different number. So let's take an inhale through the nose for 4, 3, 2, 1, pause. Exhale out the nose, 4, 3, 2, 1, pause. Inhale for 4. Exhale for 4. And just continue this on your own. Inhale and exhale. As you continue this even ratio breathing, it starts to create an evenness of mind. Remember, sometimes backing off is going deeper, so if you feel you need to take a break and set that left foot down or make any other changes to your pose, go for it. right, unwind. Feet on the ground. Cross left ankle over right knee. So same thing. Some of you stayed here where you just had sort of the figure four. Or you can pull that right leg in. And either hold the leg, use gravity, whatever was making sense for you. We're going to do that same 3 minutes. And on the last round, you may have made a decision. Maybe you did the breath, maybe you didn't. But if you did, how did 4 and 4 feel? Did that feel too much, too little? And so on this round, see if you can keep that same Samavritti even ratio. And then you decide on the number. Maybe it's 5 and 5 or 4 and 4. So where can you be where you're even? And you can explore different options with the right leg. Now the idea is to commit to stillness, commit to whatever shape that you found. But if the body wants changes, or if you did something different on side one, it's nice to mimic that, finding that balance. You know, 5 more breaths. Okay. So unwind. If you had any props underneath you, remove them. Hips to the ground if they weren't already there. And then we're going to go back into the same legs, those figure four legs. So cross your right ankle over your left knee again. Pull the legs in as if you're going to go to thread the needle, but this time take your legs over to the left. This whole figure four unit drops to the left like you're moving into a twist. And I like to hold onto the foot, slide it a little higher, really anchor it. If the foot doesn't go to the ground, put it on a prop. You can put it on the bottom leg if you need. And then start to really open up this right thigh. I like to move the left hip and shoulder out from underneath me so I'm a bit more comfortable. You might even press that top thigh open with the left hand. And again, 3 is our magic number today, so we're going to do 3 minutes. And notice those areas where the body, again, is not willing to let go, or at least not willing right away. And start to find those ways that you can create a state of ease. Maybe not going in as deep. Maybe using the breath count to remind your nervous system, your internal environment to relax. Sometimes when we're under a lot of stress, real or imaginary, the nervous system sort of picks up on that. And so in these moments when we should be relaxed or letting go, it doesn't really remember how to do that. So it takes a little bit of coaxing. So find your breath. Breathe into those areas that would like space. And remember, it's not about the end game. We're not trying to get anywhere. It's more about being rather than doing. It's the undoing, the unwinding of all those layers we've put into the body. You can explore different arm options. Your last couple breaths. All right, slowly come back to center. Set your feet down onto the ground. And take a moment. You might notice a big change between the sides already. Cross left ankle over the right knee. You can stay in any version of this figure 4, pulling the leg in like it's thread the needle, or you're going to drop your legs all the way over to the right side and combine your thread the needle and your twist. And if you have props like your bolster, some of you might find that you want to put your foot on that instead. And 3 minutes. And then start to really notice which side is starting to give you a little bit more trouble. Maybe it's not letting go as quickly, or there's an old injury you might find yourself subconsciously protecting. And so again, all these things are ways that we investigate the sensation, the experience. We don't have to have the answers. We're not judging. We're not creating any sort of rationale about what's happening. We're just noticing. We're just starting to train that meditative mind. As you notice the sensation, observe if it has a texture, a color. Does it create a memory? Spend some time just investigating. Connect to the breath. And has your breath already started to become a bit more smooth and relaxed? Or is it still catching? Is it still shallow? It might even change moment to moment. Gradually unwind. Set your feet onto the floor. Maybe your knees fall into one another. Take a moment just to rebound, observe. And then roll to your side. Press yourself up to seated. And I'm going to give you a few options for our next pose. So our next pose, the target is the inner thighs. So a couple options could be a very simple butterfly pose. So just pulling the feet in close to the groin. You could do malasana or happy baby, although happy baby is a little harder to hold for a full 3 minutes. Malasana could be done if you wanted to sit on that bolster or a prop. You could move into malasana. You can even do a wide child's pose. I'm going to move into frog, which is just sort of the end result, the deepest expression of this pose. But I do kind of have all the props to move into it. So I'm going to take a blanket on my mat. That just makes it a little bit more comfortable for me. You can start in a wide child's pose. The knees are a little bit wider. And with a lot of these poses, again, it's not exact. Feet could be farther apart. They could be closer, knees closer, wider. It's really up to you. But I took my blanket a little wider than my mat. I'm going to take my legs a little bit wider than my torso. And then feet are either together or to the side. So moving into frog pose or your version of it. Again, we're here 3 minutes. You can even move into outrigger. Let's say you don't want to do both legs at the same time. You can take one leg, stretch it out, and just do one side at a time. So choose which side works for you. I'll give you a halfway point if you're taking something different. And you have 2 sides, and you can kind of decide where to be. So on side 2, at the halfway point, you can change. And so again, if you're in frog like I am, hips could be more forward, they could be more back, feet could be closer or wider. The target is inner thighs. We're accessing again those liver and gallbladder meridian lines. Liver is the seat of human kindness. And gallbladder represents our courage. And so together, when they're in balance, we find compassion. About halfway through this pose, so if you were doing outrigger where you just were doing one leg, go ahead and switch to the other. It'd be a little less time, but that's okay. Lots more to do for the inner thighs. About 10 breaths left here. And in about 5 breaths, the timer is going to go off. If you're in frog or a pose that is a little precarious, move slow. You're in no rush. I know it may seem like that. but we want to protect those tissues that have been under that stress. And sort of pulling them in a healthy way to create that stress on the joints. So we don't want to move very fast. Okay, take your time. We're going to go slow to our belly. So however you can move there, those legs move back. Take your forehead and rest it. Just take a few moments and notice. Is there a little bit more warmth or circulation? The tops of the thighs, the abdomen. And we're going to lift up onto our elbows into Sphinx. Now I happen to already have a little blanket for under my belly, so I'm going to keep that. You may want a bolster or blankets or something. If you want to take this a little bit higher, you can have that nearby. We're going to stay with our 3 minutes just a little bit longer. We'll go a little bit longer after this. We'll start moving it up to 4 minutes. Yeah, soon. All right. So in your Sphinx pose, just let the legs relax. You can be on your forearms. And we're looking for a healthy stress on the joints. It might even be the compression of joints. So here the low back, the bones are being compressed. If you have any low back sensitivities where that's not appropriate for you, add blankets, or you could change the direction. This could be a 2-block heart opener or something different. If this is feeling reasonable for you, at any point this could be higher. So you can always take a bolster, which I anticipate for me is probably going to be a little too high, but we'll see. Or you can use a couple of blankets and just slide those under the elbows. And then it gets a little bit deeper into your pose. Again, if this feels too much, then you just go back to where we began. About 10 breaths left. We have 60 seconds here. And if you come out earlier when you are done, we're going to just lie back down onto our belly. All right, so if you haven't already, release from your pose. Move slow. Press yourself up to hands and knees. We're going to do a pigeon pose using the bolster in a kind of a specific way. Again, this could be blankets, this could be no props. But pigeon's not for everybody. So we've done thread the needle. You can do that again. You can also do deer legs. So one knee would be bent forward like you're moving into pigeon. The other leg bent behind you like a half hero. You can lean more right and fold. or even folding forward. So if pigeon is not for you, this is a really nice alternative, taking deer legs. Otherwise, I'm taking my bolster about 2/3 of the way up my mat, and it's horizontal, it's sideways. I'm going to leave this blanket back here because I think that's just nice to have anyway. So we're going to sit on the bolster towards the front of the mat because we'll eventually be back here. So we want to make sure we have enough room. I know later I might want my blocks, so I'm going to have those available as well. So the way that I'm going to move into pigeon on the bolster is I'm going to lean to the right, sweep the left leg behind me, and important, I want this right knee to be down on the ground because I don't want to strain this knee in any way. So when I start to shift myself to center, I'm going to tuck the back toes under so that I can get a little bit more even. I'm going to give myself a little bit more space by sliding that back. And my knee is down. My foot is close to the bolster. It doesn't need to be the same level as that knee. That's fine. And then for me, I like to have blocks or props, or it's not necessary, but it's a nice way to allow yourself to just settle. If the bolster feels too high, use a blanket or skip it. Again, we're here 3 minutes in our pigeon pose. As you move through these hip openers, it's very interesting how sort of these external hip poses help us to explore internal environment. We're trying to create that ease on the inside. If you find that you no longer need the props or it makes more sense to lower down, feel free to. Continue to investigate what's your experience. And start to really differentiate. Is something uncomfortable? Is it just your perception or your sort of perceived threat of something being uncomfortable? Sometimes we build up an experience before we really paid attention and sort of seen, is that what's really happening? You're more than halfway through this pose. We have a little more than a minute left. About 5 breaths left. When the timer goes off in a moment, we're going to come out in a specific way. So just give yourself a moment when that timer goes off. All right, so if you're in pigeon, walk your hands upright. And whichever pose you're in, pigeon or deer, let's lean over to the right. Sweep the back leg around. So you're either sitting on your bolster or just sitting comfortably crossing at the ankles. So we're going to add another pose to this before we do side 2. So with the back leg sweeping around, the left leg should be in front of you now. And everybody's a little bit different. For me, the bolster feels a little high, so in a moment I'll probably trade this for a blanket. So we're going to be in Sukhasana, crossing middle of the shins, or double pigeon, eventually crossing shin on top of shin. So if you have props and you feel like you want the knee support, go with that. For me, I'm feeling a little high in this bolster, so I'm going to move it. I think I'll just stay here on the ground. So crossing middle of the shins again. We're not crossing at the ankles. This is more like a heart. Left leg in front of right. Crossing middle of the shins. We're here 3 minutes again. I'll give you a halfway point in case you decide that you want to move this to double pigeon. And you can either sit or fold forward in any fashion that is supporting you. But again, don't go to your deepest right away. Give yourself a little time. Relax the jaw. Sometimes when we're not in balance in this meridian group, liver and gallbladder, we might get vertigo or feel dizzy or have headaches. And some of that, I think, is just when we're gripped, when we're not relaxed. Jaw grips, we feel that around the eyes, the face. And so in this moment, start by unhinging the jaw, letting the tongue soften. Relax around the eyes. If you're on a bolster and you fold forward, shift your sit bones back. We're nearly halfway through this pose, so for me, this is good for me today. But some of you may be stacking foot on top of knee for double pigeon. You can see I have quite a ways to go there before I'm fully stacked, so I'm going to stay in my Sukhasana. Sukhasana, Sukha is easy. Sukhasana translates to easy pose. I don't particularly find this pose all that easy, so a little ironic, but that's it. We'll be here a little over a minute. Five breaths. All right, so take a mental note for a moment. Everybody's a little bit different. I asked you to have the back leg wrapping around the front, the left leg in front, but that may not be the case. So just take a mental note. We did pigeon on the right, Sukhasana on the left. If it's different for you, just make those changes when we do the second side. So slowly coming out. If you used a bolster for pigeon pose, use that again. However you set yourself up. I'm going to sit on my bolster, get ready for my pigeon pose, and we'll do those two poses together again. So I'm going to lean left on my bolster, sweep the right leg behind. And again, I'm not shifting so far back. So this is what I don't want you to do. See how my back leg is down, my front knee is not on the ground, and it's really far away from the ground. I don't want that. So I'm going to shift my whole body forward until the front knee comes down. It's just really under this left hip and under the top of the back thigh if you're using it. And then shift forward, trying to turn the back leg down, and then come onto your props or the ground. And again, we're here 3 minutes. If pigeon wasn't your pose, you were taking deer legs. Some of you were moving into the other options, maybe thread a needle again. continue to investigate your experience. Maybe you can start to notice what layer of the body is that experience in. For an example, your experience may be a sensation at your outer hip. And notice, is that sensation in the physical body? I feel a physical sensation. It's residing in that outer layer, the Anamaya Kosha. Or does that experience, does that sensation start to invoke some emotion? Is it starting to make you angry or stressed or nervous, or any sort of emotion that is starting to maybe compete with the sensation? Are you moving into that emotional body? Or are you trying to tell the body where to be in this pose? We're about halfway through, so if you need to make changes, this is a good time. Are you using that mental activity, those chitta vrittis, the field of the mind, to try to move yourself into where you think you should be, more into that mental layer of the body? This last minute, just notice, what layer is that experience in? About 5 breaths left. And again, when that timer goes off, lift yourself up, lean left, sweep the back leg around and in front. So Sukhasana, easy pose. Some of you decided sitting on the bolster was working really nicely for you. I had skipped it for me, so I'm going to do the same here. And I believe our last external pose, our last 3 minutes. Don't get too excited. That doesn't mean we're done. It's just the last one of this fashion. Again, move slow. Something held for a couple of breaths is a much different experience than for, say, 30 breaths. So you're coming up on halfway through this pose. Some of you are in a really nice place for you. Some of you may be adding, stacking those legs, moving into double pigeon. It's not for me today, so I'm going to stay where I was originally. And we're here about 90 seconds. I'm a big fan of pressure points or finding other ways to release. Put my elbows on my blocks, my thumbs gently together, and they're just very gently resting that place, if you follow your nose up to where it starts to become your eyebrow. And it's just very, very gentle pressure. A really nice way to release headaches or sinus pressure. And just to remind your face to soften. You can slowly move the thumbs down if you're at the inner eyebrows. All right. So slowly move yourself out of your posture. You're going to move into a split leg stretch. So some of you I know like to use the wall. So you might take your legs up the wall and then you can split them out to the sides. We're going to move into our dragonfly or upavishta, whatever makes sense in your yoga world. I'm going to sit on a blanket comfortably. You don't have to. I just really like this. If I sit at the edge of the blanket, it helps to tilt my pelvis forward, which makes this a little bit more comfortable. And then you can have props, maybe blocks or a bolster in front of you. So we're moving on now. We're adding a minute. We're going to be here 4 minutes. Go ahead and get started. If you need a second blanket or a couple towels to put under the knees, it's a really nice way to release any tension in the back of the knees. When we're not feeling balanced again in the same center, we might have anxiety or be a little bit quicker to lash out, have that excessive anger. So we really want to find this balance. So we feel calm, we feel compassionate, we find that kindness that we have within. You can almost think of those reactions. I almost think of them like an inflammation. You know, like we've created a heat, we've created some sort of an experience that is welling up inside that we can't contain, sort of our emotions. Emotions are good. It's not that we're not trying to have those, but where we can observe them and sort of notice versus letting them carry us away, sort of getting caught up in it. And so with yin, when you find that experience that you want to get caught up in, either sort of get away from it or move more deeply into it, you have a moment you can sort of assess. Can you breathe? Can you sit with it for a moment? Does it make sense to stay? Should you back off? You're almost halfway through this pose. About 2 minutes left. Again, you can still do that pressure point if you'd like. You can always even rest your fists on your temples. Deeper isn't always better. Move with the place that gravity is telling you that you can move with ease. Find that compassion for your body. 5 breaths left. Slowly back out. You can take a hand underneath each knee. Manually guide your legs back. Take a moment and rest. We have one more posture before we come to our backs. Or maybe you do this on your back. So we're doing shoelace or Gomukhasana, however you say it. I'm sitting on my blanket because that was working for me. Left leg bent underneath, right leg on top. And I'm trying to anchor the hips evenly. So this might even be a higher blanket. And I can do anything I want with those arms. I can rest here. If you were finding that it wasn't really working for you to do the pose seated, come to your back, cross knee over knee, maybe hold on to the calves or the ankles. And you can be here. If you're at a wall, you can do this at a wall. So whatever's going to make this pose successful for you. All right, don't be mad, but we're here 4 minutes. You've been working up to it. No one said this was easy, although I guess I did say it was going to be relaxing, but the results of it, right? The results are relaxing. Okay, so 4 minutes, timer's already going. And don't let the time sort of create an expectation in your mind. I use the timer so that I can talk and have you not feel that I've forgotten about you. But also, I say this all the time, lefts and rights feel very different. And so I really enjoy noticing the perception of time. What makes time feel really slow or fast? So if we know it's the same time on both sides, why does one side feel crazy long and the other side just flies by? So it's another investigation point you can ask yourself. Was there an injury on that side? Were you thinking about something? Get distracted. Maybe time just moves differently. You can join me for earlier practices. There's lots of options you can do with winding arms or side bending. So any of these things are fine. If you went in too deep too fast, start to back yourself off. Maybe close the eyes. And see if we can move back into the breath. So we worked through some of the even ratio breathing, but let's see if we can lengthen our exhale now longer than our inhale. It helps to calm us, to move more into that state of ease, more into the body. And so our ratio will be in for 4, out for 6. So take an inhale through the nose for 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale out the nose, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Again, in for 4. And out for 6. 90 seconds left. In for 4. Out for 6. Continue on your own this last minute. Try to ease that internal environment. your last 5 breaths, 30 seconds. Alright, even that one was challenging for me. Undo it. Just one more side, I promise. And I'll come to our back to finish out. Alright, if you need any massage, any movement, take it. And then switch left leg on top of right. Find your pose. Timer's going, so we're not here longer than we need. And again, maybe this is the side you do this pose on your back. So take care of you. So some say that dreams are when we can practice for life. We can sort of dream up different scenarios and we can make different choices and see how that plays out. And we can do that before we have the real experience in real life if we do. And I feel that yoga is similar, where we're practicing for life. What we do on the mat is practice for how we are off the mat. And so in these moments where you feel like you want to give up, you have conflicting thoughts or emotions or distractions, how do you find your center? How do you find your calm within the storm? And so this is the time when you can practice, where you set aside the time and the place to do that. And even if it's just for short periods of time, those little practice points, they're important. And so use this experience. How can you create that state of ease, your inner calm within the chaotic storm outside? Nearly halfway through this pose. And let's see if for these last 2 minutes we can use the breath again to create that state of ease. So in for 4, out for 6. On your own. Inhale, 4. Exhale, 6. One minute left. If you went too deep, too fast, you can always back off. happy to get out of that pose. So unwind, take our finishing pose, and then yay, Shavasana. So let's find our way onto our backs. If you have a strap, grab that. We'll end with what I call final stretch, which is basically Supta Padangusthasana. So find your way onto your back, grab your strap if you've got it. We won't use the timer. Each of these will just be about a minute, a good 10 breaths. So when you get to your back, take your strap over your right foot or however you want to use it or loop it. Lots of options here. And we'll just take a nice 10 even breaths. Yeah, when you're ready, put the straps in your right hand. Open to the right. I happen to have a blanket next to me. I'm going to use that. And then just open to the right. I'm not trying to get down to the ground. We've done a lot of inner thigh work. This is more just to create that state of ease for Shavasana. Good. 10 breaths again. Bring your leg back to center. Switch hands, cross the leg over. You can stay at the diagonal, which gets into our meridian lines of the outer hips. Or you can take this into a full twist, letting that cross over. So yogi's choice. 10 breaths. Come to center. Release that leg down. Feel the real difference between the sides. If you had a blanket, you can switch it to side 2 or whatever you were doing for you. And we'll end with this side. So strap over the left foot or however you were stretching the hamstrings. 10 breaths or somewhere around there. Straps to the left hand. Turn the toes out left slowly. Open left. Good. 10 breaths. Find center, switch hands, and we'll end by crossing the leg over. Again, you can stay at the diagonal or cross the leg all the way. Bring yourself back to center. Release. Let's find our way set up for Shavasana. So Shavasana is anything that I'm going to just make use of all of my props. I'm going to slide the bolster under my knees again. I'm going to take my heels on my blocks. I'll use the timer again for Shavasana. We'll do a 3-minute Shavasana. But that way none of us are worried about when we come out. And then any remaining props, if you want, set them on your hips or find a way that you can relax. Everything in life is about what are you doing? But when is it about what are you being? Being in the breath in the moment. Be here now. Shavasana. Start to move fingers and toes, maybe yawn. Bend your knees, roll to your side. Eyes closed as you press yourself upright to seated. Hands to your heart in gratitude for all the energy, time you've put into you today. Lift your heart, Bow your head. Namaste.